Hello and welcome to In Focus. I'm Karim Hatem. Today we analyze the recent ceasefire in Lebanon, a development brokered by the US and France that marks a pause in the aggression that has devastated Lebanese communities. What does this mean for Lebanon's political landscape, the region's strategic balance, and the ongoing conflict in Gaza? Let's explore.
منطقة سكنية لا فيها أشياء عسكرية ولا فيها شيء. مثل أول شيء أنا عاجز وبدي أهرب.
In a country of that size, which is relatively small, and a population that's estimated around 5 million people, you can imagine how dramatic it is that over 1 million people are now without shelter and on the move.
The ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah, which was outlined in the National, details the steps to de-escalate hostilities but raises critical concerns. While it promises stability, the terms appear to prioritize Israeli security, placing a heavy burden on Lebanon's government and military. With over 3,700 Lebanese lives lost in the past year, it is vital that the ceasefire leads to lasting peace and justice, and not just a pause in the aggression. The coming weeks will test whether these commitments generally serve Lebanon or merely reinforce regional imbalances. The ceasefire agreement has brought temporary relief to Lebanon after a year of Israeli aggression that has caused immense suffering and widespread displacement. But what are the broader political implications for Lebanon, a country already burdened by economic and political instability? To discuss this, we are joined now by Michel Moussa, a member of the Lebanese parliament. Welcome. Now, how does the Lebanese government view this ceasefire right now?
ما من شك أنه هناك ارتياح لهذا الموضوع. كون انه هذا يعني هذه الحرب كانت
all Lebanese parties
كانت كثير يعني القصف
are optimistic about this ceasefire agreement, specifically that we've been witnessing escalating offensives carried out by Israeli occupation forces. We have perceived a lot of random pounding and air striking on different venues, civilian venues rather, in Lebanon. And so after the negotiators through the facilitation of the United States and through these negotiation sessions carried out by different negotiators, including, of course, the U.S. envoy. Finally an agreement was reached, facilitated by different parties, including the Lebanese parliament, of course.
Is it a political victory, do you think, or is there any exposure to the limitations of Lebanon's ability to counter Israeli aggression and to implement the conditions of the ceasefire deal?
لا هو حقيقة يعني من الصعوبة اليوم تصنيف المواضيع وليس هذا هو الأهم في هذا الموضوع.
This is not really what matters. the fact that Lebanon approved of this agreement, this is because Lebanon has always wanted to operationalize the Security Council Resolution number 1701. And so the approval of this agreement is just an executive measure relating to that. And that's exactly what led Lebanon to approve of this agreement after studying it intently. In fact, there are a lot of other factors that impact this scene. Of course, the field operations and so from a military perspective and from a political perspective, it was quite important for Lebanon to agree on this agreement. And in fact, we in Lebanon have endured more than 30,000 strikes carried out by Israel, and so it was very important for us to agree on this document.
How do you think this ceasefire is going to impact Hezbollah within Lebanon and across the Arab world?
يعني هو يعني الحزب الله يقول
بمدرجاته Hezbollah
يعني شمال خط الليطاني نهر الليطاني
and its withdrawal beyond the Litani line, and in fact the withdrawal of the Israeli occupation forces to the Israeli borders. This is the most important factor on which the truce is predicated, and there is a committee that got formed in order to look for different grievances that can be represented by contraventions. In fact, the United States is definitely going to be represented in this committee, as well as the French side and other parties as well. And so there is. And today, you know, Hezbollah is a Lebanese party represented by the Lebanese government, and it has some kind of wide grassroots support. And so definitely this agreement is going to be fruitful with regards to the stopping of belligerent acts between the two parties.
What role do you see international actors such as the US and France, who brokered the deal, as well as the UN and the EU, playing in maintaining the ceasefire and also opening the door for perhaps stability and de-escalation in the region as a whole?
The American side and the French side, they have been, of course, the pivotal brokers that have worked on this subject by paying swift visits to Lebanon and to Israel. And so, through negotiations, they were able to reach this agreement, which comes under the title of the operationalization of the Security Council Resolution number 1701, which is, of course, purely a Lebanese demand. As well, they are going to be represented in the committee that is going to be receiving the grievances regarding any kind of contravention or violation to the provisions of the Security Council Resolution. As well, they're going to keep track with all the work on the ground. They're going to observe grievances regarding violations to the provisions of the resolution, and this committee are going to work to put a limit on these violations, or these potential violations for that matter. And as mediators, as international mediators, the members of this committee can work in synergy in order to resolve any kind of tumultuous circumstance or issue that could erupt on the borders between Lebanon and Israel.
Well, thank you very much. That was Michelle Moussa, member of the Lebanese Parliament. Thank you for joining us on Q News. Now, the Financial Times highlights the challenges Lebanon faces post the ceasefire. While it brings relief from Israel's relentless aggression, the deal is imbalanced because it allows Israel to strike at will, thus threatening Lebanon's sovereignty. The underfunded Lebanese army's role in securing the south remains uncertain, with international support yet to materialize. Sectarian tensions and Hezbollah's dominance further complicate the rebuilding efforts, while political factions may exploit the fragile situation. As the Financial Times notes, the ceasefire ends the fighting but begins a new struggle for Lebanon's stability and sovereignty. The ceasefire has altered the military dynamics of the region, with Israel agreeing to withdraw from southern Lebanon and the Lebanese armed forces stepping in. While this is presented as a step towards stability, questions remain about its enforcement and implications for broader strategic balance. We are joined now by Major General Samir Abhara, a military and strategic expert, to analyze these shifts. Welcome, Major General. Now, what are the main challenges that the Lebanese armed forces face to secure the southern Lebanon region in accordance with the ceasefire deal?
Greetings, everyone. In fact, the ceasefire agreement tackled the fundamental, pivotal subjects without getting into interpretations. This is like a preliminary agreement, but still more subjects and more provisions need to be further interpreted and agreed upon. With regards to the deployment of the LAF, or the Lebanese Armed Forces, in fact, within the coming 60 days, there will be an agreement on the start of withdrawal of the Israeli occupation forces and the deployment of the LAF. Up until now, no final agreement that is fully crystallized is ratified or issued yet, but there is a preliminary agreement that within the coming 60 days, the UNIFIL troops are going to be deployed next to the LAFs. As well, we are going to witness the Israeli occupation forces withdrawing to the Israeli demarcation lines.
What needs to be included, Major General, in order to ratify the agreement, as you're saying, and in order to actually curb Israeli aggression and prevent further violations?
هناك قوى مشرفة على هي التي رتبت الاتفاق
There
الغير
is, of
متحدة
course,
وفرنسا وبالتالي عليهما دورا أيضا أن
observing
يقوما بكبح جماح إسرائيل فيما إذا تم
parties
الاعتداء على
that have
سيادتنا.
brokered this agreement in the first place, which is the United States and France. And I think they're going to incur this responsibility as well.
إطلاق النار أن تقوم إسرائيل بالرد أو أن تقوم بالتدخل إذا عجز القوات اليونيفيل أو الجيش
If the UNIFIL and the LAF
بالرد أو ممكن بالاختراق الحدود اللبنانية
could not or carried out a violation, there is in fact an article or a provision that gives Israel the right to intervene in case they observe any kind of violation from the LAF side. And still, there are some pending issues regarding the deployment of the LAF. And I think that the United States needs to curb the escalations of Israel and just to stop them whenever they think that there is a violation from Lebanon. They have to stop them right in their tracks.
What is the priority now for Lebanon, considering that the vacuum is not just in political positions such as the president? However, there are perhaps political disputes that would lead to incompetence of positions regarding security institutions, and all that could perhaps impact the military's focus in the region. What do you think has to happen from now on?
In fact, definitely there is a constitutional and political vacuum happening right now in Lebanon. The current government is a caretaker one, and definitely there has to be sovereign consolidated decision that is fully legitimate made in Lebanon. And we currently only have the Lebanese parliament that has all the Lebanese parties and sects represented in its quorum. And I believe that that all parties in Lebanon, the political parties, the economic parties, and the military parties need to be represented together and need to be working in synergy in order to come out with a consolidated sovereign Lebanese decision. I believe as well Hezbollah needs to have its own say in different Lebanese sovereign decisions, and definitely Hezbollah has expressed its opinion regarding the agreement of ceasefire. And I believe that the continuation of the Israeli aggression on Israel should never be left uncurbed, because we have endured a lot of losses, whether on the level of human casualties or the level of civilian infrastructure. Definitely this has to stop.
And thank you very much. That was Major General Samir Abhara. Thank you for joining us on Q News. As noted by the Jerusalem Post, President Joe Biden is launching a push for a Gaza ceasefire that involves Egypt, Qatar and Turkey. While aimed at ending hostilities, the focus on removing Hamas raises questions about achieving lasting peace without addressing deeper Palestinian grievances. Will this lead to genuine progress or another temporary fix? And while the ceasefire centers on Lebanon, its repercussions are being felt across the region, particularly in Gaza. Could this agreement shift Israel's tactics and affect the resilience of the Palestinian resistance? We are joined now by Myrna Radwan, a writer and political researcher, to discuss these critical questions. Thank you for joining us. I want to start with a question that nobody's really trying to answer. Do you think the ceasefire in Lebanon might impact the region as a whole in de-escalation and in stability and further peace negotiations?
Good evening. Thank you. I think I see, yes, definitely the ceasefire that happened between Hezbollah and Israel in Lebanon will affect the regional situation, especially in Gaza. Hezbollah and Iran will never admit it, but they have suffered a strategic setback. You know, their aim was to link all the regional in which Iran had influence to bleed Israel. But Israel has blocked that goal. We have to admit that Israel had blocked that goal.
Are you saying that it's more of a political victory for Israel than Hezbollah and Iran?
Sorry, can you repeat your question, please?
Are you saying that the current ceasefire is considered more of a political victory for Israel than any of the other parties, including Hezbollah or Iran?
No, Hezbollah didn't come to this conclusion alone. Iran saw how it was getting battered by Israel, and like a good corner in a boxing match, they threw the Of course, none of this means that Israel has achieved a lasting victory, or that Iran won't find a way to support or to rebuild the regional network, or to support Hamas or Hezbollah again. But this time, the damage, physical and psychological, that Israel has inflicted on them, on Lebanon and Gaza, it will take much longer than before. I mean, 2006. Iran also has to think twice about how Israel might react to even the attempt or restrict its regional strategy. Should think twice to rebuild the regional strategy.
All right.
If we know that Donald Trump, yes.
Yeah. If the ceasefire, as you're saying, is opening doors for perhaps de-escalation regarding Gaza, do you think that is going to be before Donald Trump takes office, or will the Biden administration try to reach a ceasefire in Gaza, even if it's a temporary one?
You're asking me if we should wait until Donald Trump.
No, I'm asking you, what do you expect from the Biden administration right now regarding Gaza, and that's concerning building on the ceasefire in Lebanon?
Okay, I have problem. I couldn't hear you well. I'm sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm asking you, do you think the Biden administration is going to try to achieve another ceasefire in Gaza, even if it's temporary, and building on the ceasefire that happened in Lebanon, if you're saying that it's opening doors for de-escalation and stability and peace negotiations in the region as a whole?
Definitely, they are trying. They are trying to do such agreement or ceasefire. even temporary, like they did in Lebanon. But Donald Trump, I think, he will return in January, he will return the Oval Office in January with a desire to end wars in the Middle East. So if his goal is to make the peace deal while isolating Iran and their branch, I think to achieve that, it gonna takes time, and it needs more efforts, and I think it's gonna be difficult until Donald Trump came.
All right, thank you very much. That was Myrna Radwan, the researcher and writer. Thank you for your valuable insights. Well, today's discussion highlighted the multifaceted implications of the ceasefire in Lebanon, from its impact on Lebanon's political dynamics to its strategic consequences. Thank you for watching. I'm Karim Hatem. Good night.